I absolutely agree with you, Tam. Like, even the Bible says, like, everything is working for your good. Like, God is so intentional about what is for you. And let me tell you, nobody can block your blessing. What is for you will be for you. And if it didn't work out, that means it wasn't for you.
There's a reason.
Yes, so when I was 9 years old, I actually participated in New York City at the Shakespeare Festival. And that's where, like, kids get to reenact Shakespeare films. And I got to be in Katarina the Shrew. And I actually played Katarina. And I had the most incredible time doing this. And after I did my performance, at 9 years old, these agents, these scouts came up to my mom and were like, we want to sign her. It was actually an agency called Ta-Da. I don't know if it still exists, but it was an agency called...
Ta-da!
Like, ta-da! Yeah, and it was in New York.
I was thinking another type of ta-da, but all right.
All righty then. So they came up to my mom and they're like, we want to get her an agent. Like, we want her to do acting. And my mom was like, nah, fam. Like, that's not what she's going to do. Like, she's in plays in church and she sings in the children's choir. Like, that's it. She's a little girl, and I want her to just be a little girl.
Yeah.
And I was devastated. I was like, you're ruining my life. This is my dream. And I just couldn't understand why she didn't let me do it at that time. And I am so grateful for that because they always say moms know best, and she knew at that time I wasn't ready. And when I say I wasn't ready, I was still developing who I was, you know. Even you continue to learn who you are, but at 9 years old, she felt that it wasn't the right time for me at that age. Now, granted, when 14 came around and I joined 3LW, she was like, you know what, she's in a better place, and she actually let me do that. Let me tell you, I have a praying mom who said that she just didn't feel right in her spirit to let me join that company at that time. But when 3LW came along, people asked her, even in church, they were like, why are you sending your daughter to the wolves, the music industry? And I sang in church, and they were like, you can't let her sing for the world. And my mom said to them, and people were harsh on her in church, and she was like, you know what? God has given me peace about it, and I know that maybe that's her ministry. Maybe she won't talk to the people you can talk to, but maybe she can be a light in a different part of the world. And I'm so grateful for a platform like this, because I don't know what would have happened to me had I started at 9 years old versus starting 5 years later at 14 years old. But I'm grateful for my mom having a discerning spirit like you, Tam, and following what she felt in her heart was right. And at 14, she felt it was right, but... And look where I am now. It all worked out exactly how it was supposed to.
It always does. It always does. I think, for me, when I think about what was the best thing that never happened, the first thing that comes up in my mind is a lasting marriage with my ex. I think that was a really hard time because I am a devoted person. I'm very loyal. And I love God. So when you get married, divorce is not an option. You try as hard as you can to make it work. And there comes a point where you have to be honest with yourself to realize that you're just not happy and everything you do is only drawing you guys farther apart. So it takes a sense of discernment, prayer, support from friends, and also being real with yourself to really just trust God still, he's still there, and let go. And it wasn't until we actually made the decision and took the distance apart that I realized we are happier and more truer versions of ourselves apart than we are together.
Wow.
So it really, I'm telling you, it flipped my entire life, took a complete different direction. Because once you get married, I'm sure where you're at right now, it's a blissful, beautiful moment. You know where you're set to go. You're excited for all the things that come after that. But what if it doesn't end up that way? You get real scared. And you also get judged from everybody around you. So today, though, when I look at him and I see that he's moving on, I see the man I always knew he could become, and I see myself falling more in love with a version of me that wasn't able to be there when we were together. I know I made the right decision, and I'm thankful for God to love me no matter what.
That's for sure.
And to be beside me.
And God doesn't leave you even in the midst of that. And
There's a lot of men I'm happy I never was with.
You got a list? You got a list, girl?
I got a whole list. I'm like, ooh, I'm glad I ain't get with him. Like,
Cue the